What's he doing?
Jeez. Hey, can you check to see if the stream says I'm online or not?
Fucking sick, dude.
Am I online? Yep. Solid. Alright, I guess I'm just gonna start because I'm already streaming this. So, well, actually, sit tight real quick. I was gonna make coffee real quick before doing this. So, we'll be right back. See if it's. Won't stay. Alright, so let's minimize that. Um, see the nightmare that is all of my Windows tabs. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing today is doing a little bit of work on this character expression sheet that I've been putting together. Um, kind of an impromptu thing. We weren't super sure what we wanted to do this week. Let me tilt it up. But this is the main character for one of our games, and as part of one of the games that he is, I guess, a part of, one of our mini games, we needed a series of expressions that will connotate his varying disappointments or like feelings of success with the player as they're completing certain challenges. And I'm just going to kind of play around with this. I'm not super sure where I'm really going to take it, but I'll probably tinker around with it a little bit, kind of give a sense of like my process of doing some of this stuff. This is a little different than maybe what I would usually do. It's a lot more exaggerated than I've been doing recently. I mean, on stream I've just been doing machine stuff, so I haven't done a character yet, but it's definitely a little bit more on like the animated side, one would say, of I mean, both in that the character is very animated and it has a much more animated vibe to it. So I pulled reference, which I have up on another screen, but a lot of this is looking at things like the Boondocks and Black Dynamite, a lot of stuff that those guys are doing, the core team, like they have a really good, uh, they have a very good way of doing expressions. So I have three here. I'm gonna work on for a little bit, uh, a fourth one, and then I might just kind of do a little bit of coloring on some of the stuff. Uh, but I'm pretty happy with where these are. To give you a sense, they knocked the camera a little bit with my hand, but this is kind of right here where this was, and I just wasn't happy with it. There were some anatomy issues, some just overall jank to it. Any good way you can tell that, especially when you're doing a character, is if you just kind of transform it on the horizontal axis over and over again. Oop, wrong thing. Oop. And then, sorry about that. So there's just a few issues. So with these on the other side, kind of just, I cleaned up the anatomy a little bit, built out the faces, made it a little cleaner, kind of more in line with kind of how I'm drawn now. So I guess I'll start with kind of getting into like the line art side of this final one. So I'll break it down in terms of, this is just a neutral face. This is, we'll say, disappointed. I should write these on a new layer. I'll just cover all my work with me writing comments about my work. So we'll say like neutral, ensconced, and incensed. Sorry, ensconced is not, it's a different thing. Incensed and satisfied. And then we're trying to do one that's just kind of general disappointment. And like this body was a remnant of the other thing. I just wanted to attach it. There'll be different hand motions too eventually. But I've just been working on the faces for right now just to make sure that expression tracks. So the body was more just so I could figure out for myself if all the proportions were correct. And it's nice to just have a full figure, even if you're not going to use it. All right. So I'm going to minimize these and bring up the thing that I was going to be working on, which is this face. And this is just a rough sketch so I could get a sense of where it was. But definitely looks significantly different than the other ones I put together. And part of that is just that the head is to the side, so it's going to look different. But I'm going to try and play around with it a little bit just to see if I can get it closer to where I wanted it. And characters more so than most things, you really need to pay attention to things like the anatomy of it, and even if you're trying to go for something that's stylized, making sure that it's grounded in reality. And that's something that is a little tricky for me doing this because I don't tend to.
Bud Light took us to TwitchCon here in San Diego, California.
I tend not to do things super stylized. I do it slightly stylized, but that kind of more over exaggerated face stuff, I don't tend to do that often. So trying to make sure that that registered. So yeah, more so than anything, what I'm trying to say is just, when you're doing things like characters, you really want to take the time to make sure that it looks correct, because a character is very easy to tell when it's done incorrectly. Like there's a lot of like janky stuff to it or issues with it. It's a lot more evident than something like machinery or props or environments. I mean, obviously, if there's like lighting issues, things like that, like that's going to register across the kind of unanimously. But if the form of a figure is off, it's a lot more noticeable. And really, even if you are doing something stylized, you should make sure that you're grounding it in something real, because style is just an exaggeration of what's already there, and you want to make sure that you're at least kind of pulling from some of that stuff. So I'm just kind of playing around. I did this the other day really quickly as a quick sketch before leaving, so I just want to try and bring it out. And I'm going to be looking to my left a lot because I have some reference and stuff up there. So if I stop talking for a second, I apologize, but I do need to keep taking a look at what I'm doing. And of course, I somehow closed all my reference. Nope. Seriously. Okay, alright. So one of the challenges too that I've been having with this, and something I've been trying to work through, is that this character is based off of a real person who happens to also be a relative of one of the other artists in the studio. So there's a pedigree there that we're really trying to make sure that we capture and really try and do his likeness justice, because his role within the story is important, but it's also the fact that he is who he is also important to the game. So likeness is something that I'm not the best at, and it's really something I wish I was better at, but you kind of just have to roll with it at a certain point and try and do it as much justice as possible without without kind of killing yourself on it. So right now I'm just kind of tweaking around the face a little bit, trying to get it to where I want it to. I know this is going to be a disappointing thing, so he's going to have his eyes closed. I want him to look a little bit more disappointed than sleepy. Right now he's looking like a little sleepy, so and this will be developed out too. And it might help if I turn his head down a little bit, just angle that down, just to, yeah, that looks. Is that Brent?
Yep.
Yeah. What's up, Brent?
Welcome, man.
Yeah. I just got a notification for the fake Instagram account that I made you. Apparently you're doing well, so just wanted to let you know that. Alright. Just continuing to kind of look at my reference, just see where I'm going. I think part of the reason why this isn't reading the way I want it to is because I'm trying to make it look profile, and it's looking not quite profile, so I'm just trying to flex that out. I think some of the moving the head around a little bit. His face looks a lot longer than it should. And some of this I'm going to be hiding and kind of cheating a little bit, but I really want to make sure that I at least have a somewhat decent start. Alright, so if anyone wants to check out Brent's cool electric skateboarding thing, because he's a real cool guy, click on that link he posted. One of the things too that I'm trying to make sure of is that across all of the faces that I'm doing, because it is still the same character, that it registers at least somewhat. And right now I'm not really feeling that it is doing that, and part of that is I need to just align the features a little bit. So put that over so I can tell that if I line this up, it's not too far off, but I gotta tweak it a little bit more. Also, this looks like a white guy right now, and it's not supposed to. And that's all. I'm not really feeling that it's capturing disappointment so much as that's there. That eyebrow tweak makes it a little bit better. It was just wasn't reading like he was exasperated as much as I wanted it to. I also don't feel like those eyes look like they're closed. And again, this is a likeness, and not the best at it, especially without that much reference. So I'm trying to do my best, just kind of keep it at least within the same design language I established with some of the other ones, but I'll give him the anime rage line. There you go, that communicates it. They just needed more anime, as everything is. Just needs more anime. I'm just going to see what happens if I put glasses on this, and if that's kind of where I want it to be. But I have to look at my profile of someone wearing glasses, because I don't know that off the top of my head. And again, since I have the reference for it, I want to make sure that it looks correct, so that, as I keep saying, it doesn't have that much jank to it. Alright, Brent, I'm going to click this. This better be safe for work. It's pretty solid. I'll bring it over here. Apparently this is Brent. There's a suspicious lack of electronic skateboard, but we'll do that in the next one. They don't call me Tim Risky Click Nicholas for nothing, man. Alright, so back to this, or back to finding reference to then finish this. Alright. So we're going to want to do something like... And this is interesting. Something like that. I'm probably going to do the Senpai, like, sheened out glasses on this, so I think that's good. Alright. Gonna merge these layers. I'll keep them separate, but I'm gonna group them. So, I mean, my reference up on the side is a lot of Boondocks. I think Boondocks and some of the guys that do that have a really good, and a really expressive way of doing characters. So, I'm aping that a little bit, trying not to too blatantly, but there's going to be a little bit of carryover in that just because they do that very well. So, turn these glasses off. And I was going to kind of go over it, line art style. And I'm doing this in Manga Studio or Clip Studio. I think that when you're doing line art, it's a lot easier for me to mimic, to get the tools that I want, to work the way I want in Manga Studio. That's just my personal preference. But I like the fluidity of some of the brushes for doing line art a little bit more. Just kind of building this out. I'm gonna build the face structure out before I do the mustache, just so I can get a sense of where everything is and then cover it out on that. So I know he's gonna have a mustache. It's just making sure that everything reads before I come in and go in and fill up some of that detail. Liking where that's going. And the final step after doing this before I color it is I gotta ask Menti if he approves of this because this is supposed to be the likeness of his grandfather. So That's the final step on all of this. It has been since the beginning. I think that eyebrow went down a little too much. This is supposed to be stylized, but it should also be at least anatomically possible. Which is my other nickname to him, Anatomically Possible Nichols. I'm just kind of adding some lines to the forehead just to bring a little bit more detail, bring a little bit more depth or something to it. And doing line art is always interesting, especially when you're doing faces and stuff, because like line art is just mimicking the form of what you'd be doing if you were painting. So like really trying to make sure that you're at least kind of identifying some of the planes of the face and what you're going to be eventually coloring is important. Just makes it look a little bit more solid and polished, a little bit more cohesive. He needs more frown lines. So I keep getting distracted by the wind that's going on outside. And again, just looking at my reference, just kind of seeing where some of the creases on the face and stuff go. It's pouring outside, jeez. Just add some more frowns. All right. I remember last time I did line art, some people were asking kind of what tools I use and kind of how I keep My line's so straight, and like some of it is the program tracking my hand motion well. Like Photoshop, I had issues with the tracking just not registering as well. But I mean, really, it's just I've been doing line art for like a long time, and I've kind of, just trained my hand to be steady when I needed to. I'm gonna try and make a straight line and watch this not illustrate my point at all, but just doing it for a little bit. Alright. So I like kind of where this is. I don't want to mess it up. So I'm going to duplicate the layer and then start to put in that mustache. I'm going to do that. And the mustache is a very important part of this, so I need to make sure I do it right. I think the thing that I'm seeing right now is that his lips might be a little bit too big, a little too over-exaggerated. And I think his lips were also a little bit too far down. So even though he's technically looking somewhat down, he's not looking that far down. So. And then I need to maybe rotate him a little bit too. I'm thinking actually too, you're gonna be able to see just a sliver of that other side of the eye. So adding a little squiggle just to kind of fill out the dimension on that other side of the face. That's good. That's kind of capturing that like just disappointed. Maybe I'm gonna angle the eyebrow a little bit more, just give it a little bit more exaggeration on it, but not too much more. And I don't really think that's how that mustache would behave. But if you Google mustache profile, you get some interesting stuff. So, because you Google anything, you're gonna get some interesting stuff. In fact, I'm gonna Google mustache profile. Alright, that yielded surprisingly positive results. Good. Alright. So I'm pretty happy with where that is. I'm just gonna kind of tweak this a little bit just to get it more in line with where I want it to be. Just gonna build out some of the details. Some of these things that I'm doing, like what I just did, are kind of more animation-y ways of building out some of the planes of the face. Like I know that he needs its cheekbone, and like this, whatever area right here, is supposed to kind of simulate that. And it's not totally exact. I try to be as exact as possible, but if it's not perfect, I can chalk it up to style. But again, I want to make sure that it's at least as close to what it needs to look like as possible, so it doesn't look jarring. Oh, ear there, that ear in. You're going to see most of the ear because you're going to see all of the ear because it's mostly profile. And I just want to get that hair in, and then I'm going to take stock of where this is at and then probably start calling some of this stuff just to see how that looks. And then the glasses are going to be that last thing, and then I'll kind of see where I'm at. I might add learn a little bit more of the detail stuff, but uh, Ask Jeeves for Kids sounds worse than what I just said. Both in the phrase Ask Jeeves for Kids and what conceptually Ask Jeeves for Kids would actually be. What's up? Also, thanks, Brent, because every time you join our chat, it derails in some way.
The best way.
In the best way, obviously, but it was worse when it was you and Dale.
Yeah, where are you, Dale?
Yes.
You working?
Someone get Dale on the phone.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I support your truth. Glasses. Again, layer, minimize this. And whatever it was. Okay. All right. And like you can see, there's a little bit of fogginess to some of these lines and stuff too. But I'm also zoomed in. I mean, this whole picture is 5,000 by 5,000 pixels, so you're probably never going to see it at whatever resolution it actually is. It's probably going to be somewhere around the lines of like this size. So that's why I'm not super worried about getting everything 100%. I mean, things like making sure that certain planes don't bleed into each other. Maybe, I don't know. That's kind of one of the great things about working at such a high resolution, which is why I try to do it as much as I can, and is that you can really kind of get in there with detail pretty close up, and then as you zoom out, it looks a lot cleaner. And that way you really don't have to beat yourself up about like making sure everything's perfect. I mean, obviously you want to make it look as good as possible, but things that you can do to kind of eliminate or alleviate some of the pressure on yourself, I find can be pretty helpful. Finish up these glasses. Like even like with the glasses, I'm probably, because for one, we'll assume these are like dark rim glasses, but I'll treat the solid bar that you would see on your glasses as this just kind of solid black line instead of going in and doing piece of art, line art by piece of line art, because that takes a lot of time, and I don't really need to, because you can tell that he's wearing glasses. So. So it'll be about somewhere like zoomed out, maybe to like this amount of something. So, and then I wanted to have that like sheen look across the glasses, so you don't see anything underneath it. And then I'm going to erase what's underneath this, because I will eventually be doing the body, but probably not on this stream. So zoom out, take stock of where this is, and weird. I generally like where this is. I'm probably gonna go and play around a little bit, like a line thickness on some of the stuff. It's all kind of pretty uniform across, and messing with like the line quality on some of your stuff. And I'm gonna actually can kind of help things pop. I'm just cleaning this up a little bit right now.
Oh, I like it because I just really good to be like it's all there. Like just do whatever.
Finish that off. I don't like how that looks.
I'm just thinking the problems line up though.
Let's see. Yeah, I'm just kind of building out some of the line quality just to kind of separate some of the stuff. We'll probably
Yeah, I like that song.
a little heavy right there.
Oh, whoa. Wait. Yeah. That looks good. Done. Nice one. Yeah, he wanted it to be like with the lights.
And there's some weird janks right there. The biggest fan of the sideburn was right there, but I should probably. Just kind of defining some more of the forms of the face, just to see where some stuff is. Right now, I'm just kind of working this out, seeing. Part of the problem is I think that this face looks really good, but I'm covering it intentionally with glasses, which is throwing me off a little bit. But it's the direction I chose, so I'm going to try and stick with it and see how it looks. And some of the planes on the nose look a little too. Yeah, bring that over here.
You guys gonna show him? Is he
What's
still
up?
around?
Yeah, I think so. Brett, you still here? Post something Brent like if you're still here. Just hover behind me with the jug. It's looking good, man. What's up?
Got a bit of a Miyazaki mustache going right now.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm just gonna stand here.
Okay.
I'm not moving.
All right. Little jug service.
All right.
Yep. There it is. Yeah, check that sweet pottery out. Oh yeah.
Could break something. Inside.
This is Bartman AF.
Oh yeah. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. This is what happens when we don't plan something prior to 24 hours in advance.
Yeah, this is.
Tim was pointing out that he's got a very Miyazaki mustache, which, yeah. I don't. Anyhow. No. No. That's for the late stream.
And she said the outer belt is fine for the delivery because we don't ever zoom out past that point because it's cropped to the size of the screen. But the actuated belt, the inner belt, I have to redo as a full circle so that when she zooms in, so when she zooms in for the next screen, it's not cut off, but it still fits properly. So that's the latest on that.
Hey, Lindsay.
Yeah, I've been watching this. I like it. What is the expression?
Just kind of disappointed.
If he's disappointed, I would angle the glasses down, like lower on his face, and then so you could see that his eyes are closed. So
Okay.
you can get that sense of disappointment. I don't know if they still do that in anime with the sheen and it not being on their face.
So this is how I had it.
Yeah, I like that.
I can keep this the way it is, and the glasses the way they are, and then I'll bring those eyes back into it and just lower the glasses.
Maybe if you get his mouth doing something like, so his eyes are closed now, and his mouth is closed like in a regular position, so
Yeah.
he's going like this.
Yeah.
But if we got like his lips curl in
Yeah.
to where like he's really like, I don't know,
Yeah.
you know, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah. I think it's looking cool though. I like the style, and it's more closely matching the original comic thing that we did.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to make sure happened.
Cool deal.
Cool
So you're
deal.
gonna update the body
I'm gonna do that eventually. I don't know if I'm gonna do that on this stream.
and just like lab coat it or something?
Nah, I'm gonna have him be doing hand gestures.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Alright. Yeah, that's part of Dug It, Brent. Which has actually become somewhat of a reality because we already put a little work into Let It Rip. The mouth is too big still. Eventually. Probably. We have like a skeleton for it, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to go into it. So the reason why I'm erasing all this is because Menti didn't feel like this matched the disappointed look with his mouth. So I'm trying to figure out a way of doing that. Part of the problem, which I've been running into, is that when you have a mustache, you cover a lot of what the mouth does. Especially a thick one, but you Google disappointed look, you get a lot of pictures of Ron Swanson. So. I should go back over this. If I keep making my mouth look weird, it's because I'm trying to figure out how this would actually work. I like where this is going, but I'm not totally sure what it's doing. Alright. Maybe I can make him look like he's baring his teeth or something a little bit. Close. That's kind of closer to something. Might be analogous to him biting his lip. It's not 100%. Yeah, thanks, man. Where's that Bartman thing? I seen that included in
The internet can smell.
what?
The internet can smell when there's a bar.
Yeah, the internet always can sense out Bartman jugs and Bartman jug related activity. So I just recently joining, kind of sketching out a animation oriented stylized character version of a expression for a character in one of our games as part of an expression sheet for, we'll just say it, we'll call it dialogue, in the vein of like old like JRPGs where you would have that like progression of character emotes depending. So right now we're working on kind of like a disappointed look. I'm just gonna group this out so that I can show the rest of them, or not. I don't know. Come on. Yeah, so there's like this kind of disappointed looking. We got kind of standard, proving, and just totally off. I should really liking the way this turned out now that I'm comparing it to some of the other stuff. I think the mustache is a little too thick, but hey. And then I had a glasses layer. Which over here. And then I clean up the lines a little bit. Yeah, something like that. And I'm gonna clean everything up just because it's looking a little. And again, this isn't entirely necessary, but all right. Get rid of this. And that's how you draw Commissioner Gordon. Alright, so I think actually, just because I want to see how these are gonna translate, I'm just gonna put quick colors on this. Still don't think that mouth is doing what I want it to do. And I don't know if that's also because the mustache might be cutting in. But be careful with the mustaches, it can really start to. Alright. Keep going at this. And it's a bit more aligned with. I don't think that anatomically makes sense, but let's see if we can fix that. Okay, kind of like I'm doing there.
It's just so well done.
Yeah.
One of the things that you really have to be careful of too when you're doing some of this stuff is like the way that mouths and stuff are drawn in like cartoons or comics or like manga. Sometimes mimic the way the mouth actually moves, but a lot of times it's an exaggeration of it. So trying to make sure that you keep, especially because it's supposed to be a likeness, trying to make sure that this matches the likeness of the person while at the same time maybe capturing a little bit of that cartooniness. Because mouths don't really do this. Like your mouth would never actually make that shape, or like like the slanted line, any of that kind of stuff. Like it does a little bit, but it not to the same extent. So like I'm trying to cheat it a little bit so that it communicates what that mouth is supposed to be, but also maintains some of the shape of like an actual human mouth, and that includes like having lips and stuff like that. Because like a lot of hyper exaggerated expressions which are commonly used to communicate some of those like sentiments of like extreme frustration or anger or whatever, just we are physically incapable of making with our mouths. So I understand like why people cheat it in the ways they do, but I'm also trying to make sure that I'm doing that while also maintaining some semblance of realism, I guess. So I kind of like where this is at least for right now. Just cleaning this up a little bit. I'm also just kind of building out some more wrinkles on the top up here. Trying to make sure that I keep in line with the curvature of the head. Add some cheek something right there. I think this is okay to kind of play around with a little bit of color because honestly I just need to kind of step back, see where I can take this. And then also kind of help me with figuring out if there's any kind of stuff line art wise that I need to fix on top of all of this. Alright. And this is just going to be like quick flats and then highlights and shadows so I can see if all the planes are defined well, if this makes sense. Also, sometimes just coloring something will kind of give you a feel for how this will look a little more polished because, you know, as line art doesn't always communicate the form that you want it to, and sometimes it can be a little helpful just to realize something a little bit more fully. So you can feel good about where this will be going. Again, just kind of defining some of the stuff. Again. So with color, it's actually looking pretty good. I can see a few things that I might have to tweak a little bit. Like I'm still not super sold on what this mouth is doing, but it doesn't look. You can see the further it zooms out, it looks pretty solid. So now I'm going to start building up some of the shadows, just to kind of see how that looks. And just kind of realizing I'm just darkening this right now because I can tell that once I go over it in shadow, it's gonna kind of blow out some of my lines. I also combined the wrong layers. So, and I'm probably not going to keep my lines like it's dark black, but I want a little bit of, so I can kind of see how that's, yep. That's actually probably still a little too dark. I'm kind of just doing big shapes right now because I kind of know where those big shapes are supposed to go, and then I'll go in and fill in more detail as I go like layer by layer on top of this. It's cold now. Gradually defining some different planes. Just making building out the I like that. I think it might be too dark to keep going over, so I'm gonna maybe lighten it up a little bit. Yeah, so now you can really get in there and kind of start to break out some more shapes. I can tell there's a few things that may be a little anatomically off about this area right here, especially with the way that I drew the line. So should be more something like that almost. And again, I'm just kind of going through still and building layer on layer, so you sort of break out that like depth. And this is going too far over here. And this is another example of starting to color something and realizing some of the shapes on the line are a little bit off. And I guess you can go and start adding a few highlights just to see how that would. So how that would go. There we go. So it's kind of coming along. I can keep going on it, and we'll keep going on it. But probably not gonna have time to finish all of these by anyway, so I'm probably just gonna play around with this with a few more minutes and then just call it a stream, have it be a shorter stream, because didn't have that much planned. Wanted to do a little bit of something, but I have to actually from here on out kind of think about what I'm doing in a way that it's going to be harder to not just be not vocal at all about. So and that's kind of like the general process, some of my sensibilities about putting some of this stuff together. I'm going to clean this up a little bit too. And this is just kind of me going back and just adding values. Cheating at kind of making some of the wrinkles. So we're going to draw out every wrinkle. All right. All right. Well, just because I have a bunch of other stuff to do on these other ones that I'm not gonna probably start on right now, I think I'm just gonna call it here. Hope people find that a little interesting, just kind of where I go, how I approach expressions, especially in a way that I'm not super comfortable at. I will probably post a video next week on our YouTube. That's kind of a time lapse of me finishing up all of these, but that would take a lot longer than I could do on stream. So for right now, I'm just gonna leave it at this. This video will be up on demand on our YouTube, youtube.com/digagames. But there will be another time lapse of me kind of finishing all of these up. So hope you guys all enjoyed it. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram as well. I think it's twitter.com/digagames. And I can't remember the name of our Instagram off the top of my head. It is, I think, also linked in our bio, but it's yeah, Instagram is, I think, also DigaGames. But regardless, thanks for tuning in. Keep tuning in as we kind of work through what this Twitch process is, kind of as we expand it out too. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in.